everybody. So we have Tabitha Creighton, who's the SVP of Payment Solutions for iQmetrix.
Right.
So welcome. So
Thank
we're going to learn about selling high tech to high tech. Or is that right?
Selling high tech with high tech in an age of we're surrounded by technology.
Right.
So what do you do with that?
That's a great question, and I can't wait to learn.
Well, hopefully we'll cast a little bit of light on that. So thanks, everybody. We have about 15 minutes. We're going to try to stay on time. Just a little bit of background about myself and iQmetrix, and why I'm speaking on this. So iQmetrix is a retail systems company. We cater to high-tech merchants. We have about 20,000 across the United States today, all of whom are selling various types of technology to every type of consumer that you could possibly think of. And so on a daily basis, we're confronted with this question. So let me start off by, let's see, these slides are, there we go. How's this working? All right, good. So what I've done in order to help us orient the conversation is I thought I'd put together a graph that essentially looks at how sophisticated the product is from a technology perspective, and then how sophisticated the consumer is from a technology perspective, and just try to create little quadrants to have an easier time going through this topic. So for products that are relatively simple or not utilizing a lot of technology, and consumers that aren't particularly technology savvy, I like to think of those as simply services, because really it's a classic retail relationship where you and the sales associate are equal partners, and the associate is really trying to help drive value by being the guide through the store, serving the needs of the consumer, but it's very straightforward. Then when we have a product that is more technically sophisticated, but we have a less savvy consumer, that's really where a savvy salesperson comes in. And this is a salesperson that you really want to be somebody that's using that technology, especially in this day and age. So you want them to be the trusted advisor, somebody that isn't just selling, but somebody that can actually be a user of the same kind of technology that they're advocating for, so that they're giving realistic user experiences to the person that has never maybe confronted this type of technology. My mom fits that category. And I'm her trusted advocate, which is not always such a good thing. We don't always agree. I send her to the Apple store now. The genius people are much better at being savvy salespeople than me. Then we have people who are sophisticated consumers from a technology perspective, but then we have less sophisticated products. So think self-checkout, right? So this is where I understand and I just want to get in and get out, and I want to use the technology for very purpose-driven consumption, but the technology is in the actual checkout experience and not in the product themselves. So we're seeing that all over the place, and that's becoming very pervasive. So what role would a sales associate play in this role? I mean, what they're really trying to do is be more of almost like a trusted mentor, somebody that's going to give them tips and tricks to avoid any of the technology pitfalls that might come through that checkout experience. They're there to streamline what is already supposed to be an efficient experience. So they're not selling product, they're guiding somebody through the technological efficiency that comes with an automated checkout experience. And then ultimately we have digital self-serve. And so this is where you've got a technically sophisticated product and you have a fairly technically sophisticated consumer. And really you've eliminated, theoretically, almost all friction points in the sales process. So you have people that know how to use the technology, and the technology itself is very technically sophisticated. So airline tickets is a really good example of this today. They made a dramatic shift from being very much a physical, tangible thing to something that people are using and buying all of their travel online. So now the average consumer feels very, very sophisticated or comfortable in booking that travel online. Netflix being way at the top. I mean, it's a movie, which arguably is a non-technology product, but its entire delivery mechanism and the way we understand it today is first and foremost they're a tech company, and people that are using Netflix and using that online environment are very comfortable doing that, so they're way up in the upper right. So we know consumers want technology to be part of their everyday experience. Here's how much. 92% in a recent survey are looking for omnichannel shopping. This is huge. So anybody that thought that omnichannel was just like a buzzword from 5 years ago, let me put that notion to rest. 78% still do want a well-informed sales team. This is really important. Your sales team, if the only thing you're thinking about is I'm paying them 9 to 5, and that's them selling, you've 100% missed the value that your sales organization should be driving. Because these are the same people that are out on social media with your consumers. So you really want to give them the technology that you're selling so that they're blogging about it, they're vlogging about it, they're interacting in their everyday, non-official sales capacity, being advocates and being credible speakers for you and for the technology that then they're helping consumers purchase when they come back into the store. 77% of people that are in the stores are using their phones to actually do some shopping. So again, we've reached the tipping point when it comes to things like omnichannel. You may not be necessarily buying in store. In fact, this is actually one of the biggest retail trends that you're going to see over the next few years, is the move to showroom as opposed to purchase in store. We're using all of that huge retail real estate that is so expensive, and we're moving away from, I want you to hold that inventory in the store. And instead we're saying, well, what can we do to help you interact with that in advance? Because we know you're going to go and you're actually going to buy it offline. And so that's why you're seeing brands like Samsung partner with Best Buy. And the next generation of Best Buy stores don't have huge amounts of inventory. They have beautiful displays where you can see and touch and feel and interact with it. And Samsung knows that you're going to go purchase it wherever you want later on. So a few high-tech rules for retailers. 1, hands-on staff education. You want people in your staff to actually touch and feel and be active users of the technology. It's a good investment. You shouldn't feel like, oh, it's that $500 iPhone. I can't invest. I'm not going to give my staff a $500 iPhone. Well, I don't know. If you want them to actually buy a $500 iPhone, you probably do want them to know how to use it. Real practical use. You want somebody to sell a $1,500 VR system, they had better really understand what that experience is like, because it's that passion that they have when they're talking to the consumer and when they're blogging about it and when they're on Instagram about it, that's really going to help you turn around and sell it. And then if you haven't already prioritized the concept of digital fulfillment and dropship, you really want to look at that. You're just leaving money on the table. Real estate for a retailer is extremely expensive. You should be extending your inventory reach with digital fulfillment and dropship techniques. It's the single best way to immediately improve your bottom line without adding any incremental physical retail costs to your stores. So that's it for me as far as the presentation side goes, and I think we just have a few minutes left. And
few minutes left
if there's any
for a couple of questions.
Happy to answer anything. Seemed like interesting.
Loads of questions. Yes, I thought it was tremendously interesting, actually. Good. So thank you. I'm curious though. Like, I love the quadrant, right? So to go back to that, where's the starting point? It feels like a little bit of a chicken and an egg scenario, right? So how do I identify the right consumer to the right technology? Do you have some best practices, suggestions on how to make that work if I'm a retailer?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing is start with what you know. You know your product, right? So you can easily kind of benchmark in your own head. Think of yourself as a consumer. Where is that product from a technical sophistication? Are we talking about sheets, or are we talking about VR systems? Use a really simple benchmark accordingly. Although some sheets might be smart.
I was just going to say,
I came from that
category is so hot. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to have to walk that back. Yeah. Are they regular sheets or are they smart sheets that adjust the temperature of your
that's a
sleeping
valid
conditions?
Point, right? And then for the consumer level of identifying that, are you driving that from just market research, or some new tools we should be thinking about in that arena in terms of their level of sophistication? Because obviously they have mobile they can reference, right, and understand what that is. What do you think about that?
Well, I think to some extent, know your product is going to imply your intended audience. Right? I mean, you certainly should be segmenting your audience based on the product viability, and start there in terms of matching what you're expecting from your salespeople. So if you're selling smart sheets, generally speaking, your immediate target audience isn't going to be somebody that doesn't have an interest in a smart home. Right? So we know from market research what kind of demographics that means. That doesn't mean you're not going to get somebody that isn't maybe more less sophisticated when it comes to smart technologies, but generally you're going to have a good indication. Match it from there. So I'd say create your benchmark based on who your market segment is for your product line, and then help your sales associates understand how are we going to identify if the person that just came into the store is who we expected, or are they an exception? And if they are an exception, what do I do with that exception? So again, it's all about engage with your sales staff, treat them with the level of sophistication that you need them to have, because there's so few opportunities to actually have that touch point that you just really want to make sure that you categorize them correctly.
You know, this is very hot and maybe not the sexiest thing, the sales associate, right?
Yeah.
I think that what I've seen over the last 18 months or so is that this topic is becoming hotter and more critical and more important to frontline sales and transactional success.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the sales associate needs to be empowered. We need to look at them as I don't know if it's the last mile in shopping, but certainly an integral tool outside of technology. I know this is CES and I love innovation, but using those tools to empower those associates is really where you're suggesting we should go, validating even further that,
Sure.
that needs to be done.
Well, and I think you can take a cue from companies that started online. So companies that started online already know that they have to use online social media channels to be the brand ambassadors. So their online sales activity are already engaging with people that way. So I think it's really then taking the bricks and mortar retailers and saying, look, you see this is already a trend that's happening. This is how you don't get marginalized. You don't get marginalized by participating in that. And in your case, you have real salespeople, so you want them to participate through the social media channels they're already using to give you that level of equivalency in the online world.
Okay, great. For 2018, what is the one thing that we should focus on? We've got 30 seconds, so give you one hit to go out on.
The number one thing we need to understand if you're a bricks and mortar retailer is that trust is still absolutely paramount, but the way that you're going to build trust is very different. You need to start building trust before your consumer ever steps in your store, and you need to continue that relationship after they leave. And your sales associates are the single most effective way to be able to do that, so you need to take advantage of them. They're not dumb labor. They're consumers themselves, and they're consumers that other consumers will trust if you enable them and give them the level of expertise that they need to do that.
Awesome. Thank you, Tabitha.
Thank you.
That was great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.